Hello, I'm Nikki Rousseau, CEO of Robotics Australia Group. We are introducing our Robotics Australia network members, and today I have Roseanne Jessup, the Managing Director of PILZ Australia in New Zealand with me. Roseanne, welcome and thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Nikki. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about PILZ and the work that you do.
Sure. So PILZ is a successful family-owned business headquartered in Germany. We specialise in industrial automation, so we manufacture automation components with a focus on safety and security in industrial workplaces. More specifically, machinery safety and security, of which a robot, to all the community here, is defined as a type of machine. We have numerous centres of excellence around the world. One of those happens to be a centre of excellence for robotics based in Europe, where we design safe robotic systems using the ROS, Robotic Operating System modules. We see ourselves as ambassadors for safety. So as such, we undertake voluntary roles on standards committees around the world, and we'll touch on that today in terms of some of these standards. Specifically here in Australia and New Zealand, we have representation on ASNZ 4024, which is the machinery safety standards for Australia and New Zealand. We also throw out free webinars. You'll see those pop up every month or so. The next one is actually a standards update. We have a training business. We have some key topics of interest for the Robotics Australia Group Committee. We have a specialised course just on robotic safety. We have specialised AGV training courses, but we really cover everything in our training courses that are the full life cycle for safety for a machine, with our expert courses giving you a TUV certification. We also, rather than just products, we sell other services too. We have consultants and engineers that deliver that full safety life cycle, from risk assessments through to safe design and functional safety, through to implementation, and lastly, validation. You know, some of the common things we come across that might be applicable to the Robotics Australia Group Committee. There's a lot of robotic palletizers out there. Typically, in that case, with the size of those palletizers, we would be recommending full guarding and controlled access. So our identity and access management solutions come into play significantly around robotic palletizers. In the field and agri-tech machinery that possibly has AI and controlled remotely, and making sure that that technology is safe and secure. Colleagues in the USA are very, very busy in automotive, because around 50%, I think, of the robots in the USA are in that industry, and there's a lot of direct human-machine interaction in that space.
Thank you. To our audience listening, please make sure you connect with Roseanne on LinkedIn, as well as their LinkedIn page for regular updates and the courses that she's been referring to. What is the convergence of safety and security as it relates to robotic or machinery safety, and why is it important?
Yeah, and it's happening at a fast pace too, this convergence. So convergence of machinery safety and machinery security, and you could replace machinery with robots, right, for this session. At international standards, it really refers to the alignment and integration of guidelines and requirements that will address both the physical safety of the machine and the cybersecurity aspects related to the operation, right? So safety standards typically ensure that the machine is designed, constructed, and operated in a way that minimizes risk to human health and safety. So that's things like guarding, interlocks, e-stops, and other measures that will prevent accidents and injuries, loss of life or loss of limb, cuts and the like. Security standards, on the other hand, you're sort of flipping it around the other way. You're protecting the machinery from people, or specifically from cyber threats and unauthorized access. So as more machinery becomes interconnected through the Internet of Things, there's a real growing concern about the potential cyber attacks that could compromise the functionality, especially the safety function and data integrity of these machines. And this rapid expansion in digitalization and connectivity has resulted in the emergence of new safety and security risks that, to be honest, were insufficiently, if at all, considered in the current standards and legislation worldwide. So the convergence that we're seeing of these standards within our standards acknowledges that interconnectedness now, right, of modern industrial systems, and they need to address both safety and security together and comprehensively, so that when you're designing and implementing machinery, manufacturers and operators need to consider not only the physical measures, but also the cybersecurity protocols to prevent unauthorized access or data breaches and potential disruptions caused by cyber attacks. So that alignment ensures a holistic approach to risk management in these industrial settings.
And how can our robotics community get prepared for this?
Yeah, well, there's already some movement there. A big one that came out in July is the new machinery regulation in Europe. So that's some good reading to be had now. Australia and New Zealand will be adopting/adapting. It may not be exactly the same. They are now in the midst of that. As I say, two of our guys, Craig and Marie and Tony Caddison, are on the ASN Standards Committee, and that's underway now. Addressing machinery security-related safety risks, it's not just going to be good practice. If you are selling those machines into the EU, it will be required under law within 42 weeks of last month. So the machinery directive has been replaced by this new EU machinery regulation in July 2023. And it has new rules to address the emerging risks and challenges posed by new technology, AI, interconnectedness, to machinery and products to ensure that they operate safely. So, and that regulation actually covers machinery consumer products and industrial machinery. So anything from heavy duty construction machines to entire industrial production lines, as well as highly digitalized products like robots or manufacturing 3D printers. And good news is these new rules should reinforce people's trust in the next generation of machines, because I think there is some hesitancy about this technology and what it could be used for.
And how can a company like PILZ help?
Well, yeah, good question. Good question. Look, there's a lot of requirements that need to be put into consideration here. So machines must be designed and built so that connections to other devices do not lead to hazardous situations, right? That's key. And that those connected components must be protected against accidental or intentional corruption too. And so the law that's now in place in Europe, which will be mandatory 42 weeks, as I say, from last month, means that these control systems must be designed and built to withstand intended and unintended external influences, including malicious third-party attempts to create hazardous situations. So we have seen some incidences already of where unpredictable behaviour has occurred in machinery, where autonomous vehicles have been moved unintentionally, either maliciously or not. And the risk that poses, you can imagine if it's agri-tech, with a machine maybe making its way onto a road or making its way, on or near a person, you can understand what kind of risk that might pose. Or, maybe someone performing maintenance on one of those, large industrial palletizing robots that somehow intentionally or unintentionally it moves unpredictably. What that could, the outcome of that could be very life-threatening. So there's been a lot of incidences globally, some of them public, most of them I guess are kept more private, and in our instance there's not much I can talk to you about openly, I'm afraid, Nikki, today, because we are under NDAs for pretty much all of those incidences. But there's been plenty of things like that. If you think in the medical sector, there has been an incidence of a ransomware attack on a hospital, which caused delay in the treatment of a patient who died later. That hospital was using robots for surgery. So, there's so many implications when it comes to the connected world that we're in. So for us, for how PILZ can help, well, number one, we understand these standards and we understand these risks really well. We have experts, consultants in the field that work with this technology every day and advise on these risks every day. The newer risk that we will be advising on is the security piece. We've been advising on robotic safety for many years. If you're working with robotics, then you're probably already aware that there are robotic standards within ASNZ 4024 already. 3301 is the safety requirements, 4024.3301. has the safety requirements for industrial robots, and that's a direct adaptation of ISO 10218. And then there's 3302, which is safety requirements for industrial robots as it comes to robotic systems and integration, and that's also 10218, ISO 10218. And then there's ASNZ 4024-3303, which is specifically about collaborative robots, and that's a direct adoption of ISO or TS 15066. So that's already in there. So if that's certainly something we would encourage anyone in this community that's using robots to be familiar with these standards, safety standards around these robots. Just a word on collaborative. We're not a fan. It implies that they're somehow inherently collaborative and safe, and they're not. I like the wording in the new EU machinery regulation, because it describes machines, also known as robots, as two different things. Either a human-machine coexistence in a shared space without direct collaboration. So that's your palletizing robot in a guarded cell. B, human-machine interaction. That's it. The human and the machine are in the same space, same collaborative space, no protection, direct interaction. And that's what we would typically call a cobot. Cobot sounds cute and safe. It is a human-machine interaction that is occurring. I think that changes the mindset when you replace cobot with the word machine. So by taking a proactive approach, understanding these new regulations, you can prepare your business for these new requirements and avoid playing catch up later. And help your customers, by the way, do the same if you're selling robots, if you're not the user and you're selling robots. To be honest, you're probably already being asked by customers to deliver these high-performing machines that are smart, productive, safe, and now on top of that, secure, that they have the right level of cybersecurity to help protect customers' data. Fortunately, safety and security have some commonality on how you analyze and mitigate risks. In particular, safety and security require you to perform a risk assessment. That's your starting point. So making that activity a good starting point to address safety and security together as part of your larger risk management strategy is really advisable. So in October 2019, some of the community were aware that PILZ was hit by a devastating ransomware cyber attack. It affected our production, our IT, our web systems, and in some cases, for some things, it took months to come back because we refused to pay the ransom and had to revert for a few days back to using phones and whiteboards and faxes. So with this convergence that is occurring, PILZ, and with PILZ experience of recovering from a cyber attack and the skill sets that have been brought into this organization, we are now launching an industrial cybersecurity service to complement our traditional machine safety activities and training courses. And our starting point has always been with a customer, a safety risk assessment of machinery. This will now be, we do a safety risk assessment of the machine, and we do a security risk assessment of the machine. So that would be the starting point for us. From an education point of view, next year we are launching another certified course, a certified expert in secure automation. So that's where the security element of functional safety will be taught. It's based on IEC 62443. And we're really looking forward to launching that here in Australia and New Zealand beginning of next year. It's being launched in Europe in November. So that's another way that we'll be able to help us through education. And then beyond that, talking about the security, the safety and security life cycle of a machine. Now that both of those go together, there's then stepping on from identifying those risks to then mitigating those risks. So we will also be launching a safety concept, safety design, as it relates to as it relates to safety and security, where security becomes a safety risk. So then we move into our product range, right? So once we've identified the risks, worked out how to mitigate those risks, then we have we have PILZ product range, and we have a really comprehensive portfolio of identity and access management products that can manage those risks for our customers.
Thank you very much for that, Roseanne. Where can people contact you or reach you?
Yeah, probably the easiest for everyone is to find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Roseanne Jessop on LinkedIn. There's also our website, pils.com.au. If you look there, you'll find all of our training courses. If you search on there for IAM or Identity and Access Management, you'll see our full portfolio. And we also have a digital showroom, which is a great way of showing how we manage risks, both safety and security risks, around a production facility. So if you Google digital showroom PILZ, you'll find our digital showroom, and that's a virtual way of walking around a production facility and clicking on various products, scanners and light curtains and controllers and gate switches and all those good things that keep people safe from machinery, and in return also keep those machines safe from people.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Nikki.